When we're asked to write the equation of a parabola, when I know the vertex and I know just a point on the parabola, I'm going to use vertex form. And so to begin this problem, let me just write out what vertex form looked like with all the variables just right there in the problem. So y equals a times x minus h squared plus k is what we said was sort of the general form of what vertex form looked like. Well, there's way too many variables. There's 5 variables, and so what I want to do is replace some of those with numbers. Recall that the vertex was found from the h and k values. So the vertex represents h and k. So let me go ahead and plug those values in for h and k. That'll at least get rid of some of the variables for us. Now, since my h was positive up here, remember we always want to do the opposite. So I'll have a -1 down there, and then the k value does exactly what it says. So a -2k value means plus a -2, or I'm just going to do a -2 for that last part. Okay, so I got rid of some of my variables, but there's still too many to work with. So I need to now use the point. Remember, the point represents just an x and a y value somewhere on your parabola. So let's plug in those for x and y, and we should be in a much better place. So y is equal to 2. A we don't know, but that's okay. That's what we're going to find out. X is equal to 3. And then we already figured out the -1 and then the -2. And so now we're in a much better place. We only have one variable to find, and we should be able to do that without too much of a problem. So when I do this, I'm going to make sure I follow order of operations. So start within the parentheses, and we know that, of course, 3 minus 1 is 2, and then 2 squared gets us 4. So I'm just going to cross this out and put a 4 right there. All of this is 4. Now the mistake people make, though, is they try to do 4 minus 2, and we can't do that because remember, this is a times 4, and order of operations says we multiply those first before we subtract. So 4 times a, let me just rewrite it so it's more used to what we're seeing. So 4a minus 2. And now let's solve this equation for a. I'll add 2 to both sides and then divide by 4. I get an a value of 1. Now, with all this work, don't lose sight of what we were trying to do. They didn't ask us to find a, although we had to do that as part of the problem. They asked us to find an equation. So when we're done, let's plug in all 3 of these values, a, h, and k, to write our actual equation. So you'll always have y and x when you write your equation. So y equals a, which we found to be 1, times x, and then the vertex we said was -1, so that it would actually shift it to the right one, the opposite, squared, and then -2. So this is going to be the equation of the parabola described up above. These are easy enough to check. Go ahead and enter this into your graph on your graphing calculator, and then just check your table. Make sure the point 3,2 is somewhere in your table, and make sure the point 1, -2 is in there as well, and more importantly, make sure that that point is your vertex. But there you go. There's your equation in vertex form.